220 marathoner that runs 160-kilometer weeks. Most of us can't train like that, that's true. But going from 317 to 220, there's got to be things that they did that we can put into our own training to level up. That's also true. So we're going to achieve 3 things in this video. We're going to learn how a 220 marathon runner trains, we're going to learn what that looked like when I tried it, and we're going to learn the principles behind the training and how you can use them to adapt your training to make it better and more effective. So let's meet the legend that is Nick Bester. Nick, hey buddy, how's it going? So as you can see, I'm going to try out your week of training, but could you tell me what, let's call it a peak week of your marathon training might look like in terms of what distance and how you break it down?
Of course. Good to see you, Ben. So the way the block worked mostly is that I was doing around 100-mile weeks. Pretty much it looked like this on a Monday. So it was a standard 30-kilometer run. That was an easier day, but once again, just running to effort and feel. It must feel like an easier day. Because Tuesday, that was probably the hardest day of the block, or one of them. I was doing like sort of Kipchoge style track sessions. So I was doing 15-kilometer volume track sessions. The total run came to around 30 Ks that day. So that was my Tuesdays, but definitely the day of the week that made me a faster runner. Then Wednesday was an easier day. So that was anything from sort of like 15 Ks to 22 Ks. Then Thursdays, I called it like an intermediate day. So I'd get around 30 to even 37 Ks sometimes that day. And then in there was a shorter volume track session. So things like the Mona fart leg. Fridays were easy Friday. So Friday, like I always put on a Friday playlist, go into my own world, around 10 to 12 Ks, super relaxed pace. And then Saturday was my longer run and session day. So this was like key for marathon training. And it would be things like around 30 to 40 K runs, of which quite big volume sessions.
I suppose the main difference, and my point, is that Nick also works full time, but he has the flexibility to run when he wants and needs, and I don't, and many of you don't. And my working week is an inflexible and average 45 to 50 hours. And then probably a minimum of another 5 or 10 hours working on the channel videos for the week, things like that. And very quickly you're up to about 60-hour working weeks. And I wanted to show you how I fit training in and how you can use the information that I picked up along the way to make your training work for you if you're in a similar situation, but you aspire to be better and you want to look at how the best do it and adapt it to suit you. Now obviously I looked at Nick's training week, swore loudly and thought, how do I make this work for me? And importantly, how do I make it work for you? And I've come up with 5 training principles that you can adapt any plan to suit you. And they all lead you to the one most important thing in training that sits above the rest, but more of that later. So let's start with the principle of variation. For me, as an older runner and a body generally held together with wishes, it's important to include cross-training. And as a triathlete as well, I need to keep my hand in on the bike and in the pool. But it has the added bonus of being non-weight bearing, so it's kinder on the joints, and varying the stimulus to keep the body from getting comfortable. So instead of Nick's 30-kilometer opener for the week, I opted for a 1 hour, approximately 35-kilometer turbo session to reap the aerobic benefit. So don't be afraid to train in other ways than simply running. Very training is good training. And that brought me to Tuesday, and the plan was to run in the morning, which was this one of 7 kilometers, and then another one of 12 kilometers in the afternoon to get 20 kilometers for the whole day. I was going to talk about one particular principle that I thought was important for this, but my day had other plans, unfortunately. Fortunately, I had another principle to talk about for precisely this scenario, and it's the principle of recovery. But first, here's me just before I started to feel ill, all excited about the day ahead. Silly me. 7k done, that's it. I have 12k later, which will make 19k for the day, which is still not a patch on Nick, but I'm proud of it. So let's have breakfast. Well, this is a lesson learned because I feel ill and I'm not going to be able to run tonight when I was supposed to do my second run of the day, but I suppose this is another learning point for me and something that I can pass on to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to lose the 12 kilometers that I wanted to do, and I'm not going to do them. I still trained today. I did 7 kilometers this morning. But what I'm then going to do is I'm going to have my rest day on Wednesday, which I've already said I have, and I'm going to hit it again on Thursday. That should keep me in the game. My worry is I train now, I send myself right over the edge and blow out Thursday and Friday as well. So I'm looking much more longer term, and I think that's probably how Nick managed to achieve what he's achieved, is making sure he pulls back when he needs to. So that's what I'm gonna do. And on Wednesday, we took our recovery seriously and went to go and get a massage, and I'm gonna insert generic massage footage because I didn't manage to get any, but you get the picture. Here we go, back to try again. Thursday morning now, and I feel much better than I did just 2 days ago. I mean, that was a different ball game. So I'm out a 7k run. I'm gonna split it, and I'm gonna aim for 7k this morning and 12k this afternoon with Mikey. Try and get myself back on track, see if I can get some benefits from next week. But I feel all right this morning. It's a 5:15 a.m. run. And the one thing I've learned about this situation I'm in is, and I learned it a long time ago, is never try and catch up that run that you missed. So I do have a day off Saturday, or I'm cycling. I could be tempted to try and go, oh, I missed 12k, let's squeeze it in there, but it would mean then 4 back-to-back days running. So I'm not gonna do that. It's not a crucial session. There's no one session that's gonna make or break your season. And that's the attitude I'm going with right now. There is one other benefit to waking up at 5:15 a.m. when you finish a run. If you look behind, it's pretty dark, but can you see the sky? See the colour of that sky? Actually, it makes it completely worth it. It's just the joy of being in a, you know, country where we're warm, and you get that in the morning. Yeah, it makes that run worth it. 7 kilometers in the bag. Let's move on. This afternoon's run, 12k. Let's go see Mikey. Here he is. Here's Mikey. I told you I'd bring you to see Mikey. We're out on our run, running down this river. We said it would be much more romantic here in terms of footage. I was just telling Mikey that I'm trying to copy Nick's week as best I can. But no way I'm getting to 161 kilometers. Like, what's the biggest distance you've ever done in a week, Mikey?
Oh, anything on 100, around 100 is a really tough, long week for me.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess, as I said earlier in the video, we have a full-time job, but we can't just, we can't run in the middle of the day. So you have to build your runs around it, which is why I'm splitting my run today. You've done loads of double run days recently, haven't you?
Yeah, last week I did several double days on the trot, and
yeah,
it certainly took it out of me though.
Yeah, that's it. There is a toll, but it's the only way I can see myself getting into the big miles and holding my technique together as well. Hey! So we're going to enjoy this run, and it's another 12k in the bank for me. Happy days, trying to get towards 70 to 80 kilometers for the week, which will be half of what Nick does. Ridiculous. The problem is we've come halfway, we've just negotiated that, and now we've got to negotiate this by climbing on these this is parkour running. Let's do it. And you might wonder why I'm not doing the same intensity level as Nick throughout my week. Well, there's a reason for that too. Welcome to Friday. I've got another point to make about how I'm adapting my week to fit me rather than Nick's week, but I think I'm struggling to comprehend the fact that Nick would be around 100 kilometers by the end of Friday in terms of his week, and I will be at about 35, but with an hour's bike obviously, so you can factor that into the equation. But my legs are already creaking under the pressure. However, I'm not training for a 2:20 marathon, I'm training for a 100 kilometer ultra marathon. So I'm going to talk about another way that we can adapt our training to fit us and not copy somebody else's training, as good as it is, but we don't have to copy, we can adapt. And it's using a little rule of training that we call specificity. As in, if I'm training for a super hilly 100 kilometer race, I don't need to be doing all of the tempo and speed work that Nick is. What I need to be doing is, sadly, cranking this treadmill up to its maximum incline and just running. Doesn't have to be fast, but just running for maybe around an hour. So that's what I'm gonna do, and it ain't gonna be pretty. But as I was getting to this point in the week, I reflected on what Nick told me, what he thought was the secret to his success in running.
You know what, to be honest, like there's actually not that much. What I would credit is being consistent, to be honest, and like the principles that I've followed have stayed the same. So trying to keep the hard days very hard, working pretty much, you know, not racing, but working very hard. And then the easy days easy, recovering properly. And just doing that consistently over years and years and years really does help you improve. In the beginning, I was, let's call it, I was running at 5 minutes per K. My first 5K was sort of 25 minutes. And at that stage, my track or interval session volume was like 3Ks and at a much slower pace than what I'm doing now. So if I rewind back to that, I was working just as hard. My mentality hasn't changed. That was the best I could have done. And 3Ks then at, let's call it like 4:30 a K is now my equivalent of 15Ks at, let's say, you know, 3:05 per kilometer. So it's just naturally happened after years and years of hard work. I think a big thing that I have to credit is doing the other little bits and pieces apart from running. In my first few running years, I was just running and that was it. I wasn't doing any strength and conditioning. I wasn't doing any mobility stuff. I wasn't doing core, you know, I was just running and that was the thing you did, right? I would say, yeah, consistency is the number one thing for sure. I know we hear it all the time, but ultimately it does come down to that. And you know what? Just pushing boundaries that you didn't know you were capable of. I think if I think like to break 230 back when I thought it would be impossible, right? Now I'm trying to break 220, but it just shows you that actually you're capable of a bit more.
Can I count this 35k 1 hour on the bike as equivalent to Nick's 35 kilometre run? So I can keep up with it, Mary? What do you think?
I'm not quite sure it's the same.
All right, well, an hour's an hour. Now, admittedly, it could have been a mistake to start filming at gone 28 kilometres in on the long run, but we are where we are, and it's actually been a surprising run for me because as much as I've trained 6 times this week, or 6 days, more than 6 times, and I've had a decent amount of mileage, my legs still feel pretty good today. So I'm just going to capitalise on that and finish her off. I've got about 7 kilometres to go to get to 34k. And it was on this last long run that I used the final training principle, which is individuality. So at 11 to 22 kilometres, I did a solid marathon-paced effort with the rest of the run easy, which is far, far less intensity than Nick in a week, but I'm training for a 100 kilometre ultra that might take up to 20 hours, rather than a 220 marathon. So the lesson here is make the training fit you and your goals and not the other way around. Taking that individual approach to training will see you be your best and not anyone else's.
That's it, 34 kilometres in 2:25. Long run done. Ooh, tell you what, it got punchy at the end, but no, I'm really happy with that. Thanks, Nick. I'm really glad I followed your training for the week, not to the T. I didn't even get half of your mileage in, but good learning process for me, and hopefully that's helped you as well. Not you, Nick, the people you watching. And now it's all about just getting home. Here's Mare, she's done her 21 kilometres. And kind of processing all of this and giving you what I think are the 5 main takeaways that we talked about throughout the video, so that you can adapt your training to suit you and absolutely smash your marathon day, which I hope we're going to do.
2 weeks today.
2 weeks. And that's the training week done, about mid 70 kilometres I think, and it's not going to surprise you to know because Nick spoke about it earlier, but all of the training principles that I've given you in this video have the aim of leading you to the one thing that sits above everything else, the most important thing in training, which is consistency, as in staying in the game. That's the number one thing, and the more that you're able to do that, the more your running is going to come along. Hello, 1. Hello, 2. And do me this one favour as well, go and find Nick, find his channel, subscribe. He's an awesome guy with awesome energy. I'm actually going to link one of his recent videos, which I absolutely loved, at the end of this video for you to have a watch. But go and subscribe to him on his channel and find him on Instagram. Top dude, and I can't thank him enough for being part of this video. Alright, do me a favour, if this video helped you learn something or just change the way you thought just a little bit, then consider subscribing to the channel, because it's what it's all about. And if you did enjoy the video, then you're definitely going to enjoy this one, where Mary copied elite runner Philly Bowden's training for a week, and there were really positive consequences as well. Thanks for watching. The marathon and the 100k are very close. See you next Sunday.